The life of an agorapreneur, an entrepreneur who loves freedom and liberty, has a lot of benefits to it. And you can be geographically independent, as we often say. Well, you know what? There's a way you can do that. And we've got some people that can help you on that. I've got one of the best anywhere. It's going to help you on this edition because we're going to talk about how you can live life as an agorapreneur in freedom and in liberty.
Welcome to Agorapreneurs, standing for liberty and freedom, all done peacefully. Now, here is your guide, Terry Brock.
Hi, I'm Terry Brock, and I'm your guide here at Agorapreneurs as we talk about how you can create the life that you want we call it Agorapreneurs. The preneur comes from, entrepreneurs, because I've always liked being an entrepreneur and doing that. And the Agora part means freedom and liberty, that everything is done peacefully and voluntarily. And that means today, looking at other options than where you are. Many people today are saying, the country where I was born is not the same, and I want to have a plan B. It's not the same as when I was born. And we've got someone today joining us that I've asked to come on board to help you. You're going to love this. His name is Glen Kowalski, and he's joining us from his offices there in Panama. Glen, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, Terry, how's it going? Good to be here.
It is going well. You and I are so much alike. We've got similar philosophies of peaceful living and living voluntarily and helping others and entrepreneurs. You're an entrepreneur yourself. Tell us a little bit about your company, Palm Tree Research, and what you do to help fellow liberty lovers around the world.
Yeah, so Palm Tree Research we're a publishing company and a research company, and we search out different options to help people create different identities for certain different parts of their lives so that they're not married to or really tied to any one country, and they have the opportunity to go to places for different parts of their life where they're treated best for those things, whether that be the best place to set up a business, the best place to live, the best place to have residency, which is often a different place from the place that you live, which is quite an interesting concept that most people don't quite understand. Best places for banking, those kind of things. So we seek those out, and then we provide information on how to find them and where to best go, how to do it, strategies for eliminating taxes, and just being left alone, which is our big philosophy, is just let us be alone and grow our businesses and grow our lives.
Exactly. Kind of like just keep your hands to yourself. Don't hurt anybody. Don't take their stuff. Don't hurt anybody, and live peacefully. But why is it more important today? Many are saying it's more important today than ever before to have at least a plan B, another option. Why is that, in your opinion?
Yeah, so we're living through this really interesting time right now. I was actually just really thinking about this today, how we've been kept, especially if you look at us in the West, whether that's Canada, US, that type of culture. We've always had this sort of left-right paradigm that we've been living under, with politics in the States, it's Republican versus Democrat, and in Canada, it's liberals versus conservatives. And what I've found is that there really is a big conflict going on right now, but it's between two very opposed groups or philosophies, two very opposed philosophies. Mm-hmm. And one is a philosophy where the individual is the most important, and things like individual responsibility and individual results based on your own efforts, and taking control and responsibility for your own life and your own success or lack of it, and just doing what you want to do as long as you're not bothering somebody else, like you said. Yeah. On the other end of this is like never before. I've never seen it during my lifetime. I'm sure in some countries it has happened, but there's this other side where there's this very collectivist attitude, and depending on who you talk to, some people blame it on, individual groups, whether it be like the World Economic Forum or on the, some people say the Illuminati, if you really want to go down certain rabbit holes, but based on this group. But really what it is, and what there isn't a conspiracy around, is this globalist attitude where we look at the world as this globe where the collective becomes so much more important than the individual, that the individual's rights, liberties, freedom just becomes crushed in the pursuit of trying to do what's best for everybody, and which is really bringing everybody down to to a much lower level. And I've never seen that before, like I'm seeing right now across the West and across the world in general, just this very strong globalist the individual doesn't matter type attitude. And if you haven't found this plan B where you can be nimble enough to change your location, change your physical location, your legal locations, where you're spending your time, your social interactions, and really even just your mindset. If you don't have an option to be able to be mobile in that, you could get trapped into this prison, whether it's a virtual prison, a real prison, or just a prison of your mind, where you're never going to get out of it. You're going to get pulled into this world where everybody's just the same carbon copy drone working towards these globalist end results.
Yeah, I think so. We see that a lot, that people think, well, the individual doesn't matter is what they're saying. And they think that this collective matters. Well, when you think about it, we're all individuals. And there is no real collective. It's like there's no entity there where everyone is there. We're all individuals, and we live peacefully is a good way to do it. And we see really what they mean by the collective is, hey, we want to control you. We want to have the power. And we're saying we're doing it on behalf of the people. You ever heard that one?
Yeah, exactly.
Really, they just want to have power and control themselves. At least that's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's all really about control, and it's a lack of responsibility. And that's where I think it's getting more attractive, maybe, is that people don't want to take that responsibility. But it's about just, if once you remove that individual's choice and their responsibility, and you hand that responsibility over somebody else, once somebody else has that responsibility for you, they can control every aspect of your life. You could take a really simple example. It's like, well, if they're responsible for your health care, then clearly they can't allow you to smoke, just as a bad example. Now, I'm not advocating smoking or not smoking, but that's a typical example of, if they're in control, you can't make that choice on your own.
Yeah, they know better what you should do to your own body.
Exactly.
Condemning or condoning smoking. That's someone else. I do not smoke myself, but somebody might choose to do that, as long as they're not harming me with the secondary smoke, that kind of thing, or even just making things smell smoky when I don't want them to smell smoky in my own home.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that becomes your choice. And I mean, I'm not the same way. I'm not a smoker either. And it was just the first example that popped into my head. But yeah, having somebody else have control and responsibility means that they're making all of those decisions for you. And as with many things, there's different sides of what's the best, what's right. And I mean, we can get into, vaccines are a typical example where there's obviously two sides of that argument on vaccines, where some people believe in them strongly, others people believe the toxins. Smoking is a good example, just because I happen to know somebody who wrote an entire research library saying that smoking actually isn't that bad for you. And in the case of cigars, it's actually good for you, which is completely opposite to what's obviously the mainstream opinion is. And if he happens to be right, and you chose to smoke cigars because you thought it was healthy, but somebody else said you can't because they said it wasn't, now you're harming your own body because of somebody else's choice.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the concern we have now, we believe in science and evidence, and we should have evidence-based reasoning and living. And right now, if we voice an opinion that is against the current eclectic idea, the current zeitgeist, I should say, of what people want, then they come down and silence you. And I think, no, that's not good, because we've seen that throughout history. They silenced Galileo, and when people disagreed with what the church many centuries ago would disavow, they would literally burn them at the stake or something. And I think, well, this is dangerous, and that squelches for everyone. Of course, it's bad for the person who gets burned at the stake, but also for everyone else, because then we don't have the idea of letting our minds grow. And so that's where what you're coming into is, this is beyond just ideas and concept. You're saying, hey, here are some things you need to know. So if someone says, yeah, I am thinking about it, it'd be good at least to consider and look at a plan B. What are some of the first steps that you recommend to your clients that are coming to you and saying, yeah, I'm looking at getting a second passport, getting residency somewhere else? What kind of questions should they be asking?
Yeah. And so even before that, they ask that question, would be to just start questioning if what you've been told your whole life is true. I mean, a lot of people grow up in the same town. They never go very far. They think if you're born in the U.S., you have to live in the U.S., you have to create a business in the U.S., all your banking set in the U.S., often in your own hometown. So the first thing and the first step is realizing that there is a really big world, and no place is perfect for everything in that world. There's places that, are perfect for living in, other places where you would never want to live. But that place where you would never want to live might be a really good place to have business. So just realizing that different places on the globe, because of different governments, because of different geographic conditions, different laws and different societies, can make certain things and certain parts of your life better, and realizing that all of those don't have to be in that same place.
Yeah,
So
that's a revolutionary thought, really, because we often think, well, I've got to stay here because this is where I was born. Or they start believing something like, well, ours is the best in the world. Well,
exactly,
if you get out and see, you might think, maybe in some areas, but not in every area. At least that's been my experience. You've traveled a lot yourself also, born in Canada and traveled. What has been your opinion of seeing other places and how your life has been enriched because of it?
I mean, it's every place you go has something, and every place has something. Every place has good and bad. I mean, I've lived in Canada, the U.S., and Panama, traveled all over and spent time in different places, and every place has things that are really good about them and things that aren't so good.
Mhm.
And as you begin to realize that you can take parts of your life and spread them out and really diversify, you're doing two things. I mean, first of all, you're diversifying, which is, anybody who's done any investing knows that diversification is safer. So all we're talking about is geographically diversifying, which also means diversifying across different laws and different cultures and different governments. Is that sort of that geographic diversification? And I kind of lost track of where I was going there, but
Yeah, but I think you're on the right track there
yeah.
by diversifying economically. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of financial advisors, and they say, yes, you diversify based on your needs, your resources, et cetera. And doing that geographically, just having more options, I think
Exactly.
is a good thing.
Yeah, and you're not doing it, you're taking it beyond that sort of economics or beyond that financial point, and doing it to your lifestyle as well. So once you've taken that piece and you've realized, okay, well, I can diversify, and by diversifying, it's safer. Then you can begin to ask the questions that you were asking that we started this conversation on was, okay, well, since I can diversify, where do I want to spend the most time? Or actually, we'll get back to that, because that question is often one we ask a lot later. But I have a business, and I'm creating an online business, for example. Where is the best place to set up that business? Like, should I set it up in Wyoming or Nevada where there's low US taxes? Or should I go to someplace like Nevis or Belize or Seychelles or Estonia? What are the laws around my business? It's exactly. And all countries that are great for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So where's the best place to do that? So, and that's, planting this business flag. And now it's like, okay, well, now I have all these savings, and maybe I own some gold and silver, or I own some cryptocurrencies. Where's the best place to put that? Well, the U.S. is pretty safe, but back in 1933, the U.S. did confiscate gold, so it's not unheard of in the U.S. Maybe we want to go someplace else, and like Singapore or Panama, where they have these very secure privacy laws and these very secure vaulting facilities. And then we start talking about, okay, more lifestyle, like where do I want to be a resident? And I separate this out for a second, we'll get into that, but where's it a good place to be a resident? And one typical example that I chose, and it's certainly not the only one available, is Panama. I mean, I love being a resident of Panama because as a resident in Panama, I don't have to pay any taxes on any money that I earn outside of Panama.
Because you're a Canadian citizen versus the U.S., where we have worldwide taxation wherever we are.
Exactly. Yeah, we have most of the world, other than the U.S., has residency-based taxation. So your taxation is based on your residency. So it's like, well, where do I get the best treatment on my tax? Well, maybe my residency, I like some of the residency laws in this place, but there's a little bit of tax, but it's not quite as bad as, say, Canada, where you're taxed at like 43% now. So where do you want to plant that residency flag? And then eventually it's like, where do I want to spend time? Where do I want to spend time on the ground? I mean, you and I know a common person between us who spends all this time in Mexico, but he doesn't live in Mexico. He lives in the Dominican Republic, and he's a citizen of the Dominican Republic. And he's hardly ever goes to the Dominican Republic. I don't think he's been there in years, but that's where he lives, and that's where he's a citizen. But he spends all his time in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And just realizing that because the stuff that he likes to do, the lifestyle stuff, works best in Mexico, but the residency laws and the citizenship laws work best for him in Dominican Republic.
Yeah. So it's a matter of having a multi-flag strategy. Remember,
Exactly.
the late, great Ted Nicholas, genius in marketing and copywriting, a dear friend. He talked about that and he lived it. Having citizenship here, having residency here in different places, it just seems to make a lot of sense on that. Well, Glenn, someone watching this is going to say, okay, this sounds like something I want to know more about. You've got some resources that you have available. I love the way you call it locationally independence. Have been talking about geographical independence. You and I are so much alike than that, and just looking at other options. How can someone get in touch with you if they want to get more information and follow up on this more?
Yeah, so if you go to our main website, palmtreeresearch.com, we have some links there. Right now, there's a link to a free training from there that we're giving out. Partway down the page, you'll see a free training that we're giving on our international identity and how to get this international identity. So we have a free training there. You can always email me directly, just Glen@palmtreeresearch.com. I love answering questions. And I'm always available because I just love this stuff. This is my life. My mission is to help as many people become free as I can. So yeah, so palmtreeresearch.com or Glen@palmtreeresearch.com to talk to me directly. And just take some of our free training. We got a bunch of free resources, a bunch of free reports, and that'll get you started on the journey. And then as you go down, progress through the journey, we have more and more information. It's such a big rabbit hole once you get into it, and you realize just how exciting this whole concept is, just how freeing it can be to actually start to live this true personal, financial, and location independence.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a whole lot of sense. Well, Glen, thank you on behalf of all the people that you have worked with. You have helped many people. You're a genius in marketing. You're a genius in helping people find the plan B or C or D or more in their lives. You've helped us on that. And I just appreciate what you're saying, the work that you put out, the content you put out. Thank you for doing that. We're doing it all, and you and I are the same, peacefully. We want it peacefully.
Yes,
we're going to follow the law. We're going to be compliant, but we're also going to do everything we can that the law says we can do. And we can do a lot that way and still have our own freedom, our own liberty, and do it the way we want. Glen, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
And for those of you watching this, think about how you can take control of your life. Glen is a person who can help you, reaching out, finding out about there, and at least understand the options that you have, because you never know when something could go kaplooey, there's a good term, kaplooey, where you live. And you want to make sure that you've got at least the knowledge of what is available. We talk about that here at Agorapreneurs, and that's what it's all about, living life peacefully. And as an entrepreneur, creating abundance for yourself and for others. I'm Terry Brock. Thanks for being here.